Alright, what's going on everybody? Welcome back to another video here on the channel, and today we're going to be talking about a news story that I saw just a few days ago, and I think that it's pretty crazy that this is all kind of going on, man. So, we've gotten to this point, right, where the pandemic is kind of, I guess, it's not disappearing, but it's definitely not as bad as it once was. People have become vaccinated, definitely a lot of these health techniques like washing your hands, the distancing and stuff, has gotten to this point where we've seen like a massive decline in cases, and a lot of places started opening back up, right? If you remember back when this all kind of started, right, like these cruises, amusement parks, theme parks, stadiums, places like this where like you could go for entertainment, we're all kind of closing down because of the quarantine. The pandemic was like really hard hitting on them. And with this kind of gradual reopening of things, we have seen two lawsuits that have popped up against Universal Orlando because of an incident, actually two separate incidents that have occurred inside of their facility, where someone who is dressed up as Gru in like one of those suits or whatever made a quote-unquote racist hand gesture while posing for pictures with two biracial children, okay? So two families are suing Universal Orlando after separate incidents during which an actor playing the Despicable Me movie character Gru made a racist hand gesture while posing for photos and video with biracial children. The civil rights lawsuit was filed on behalf of two girls who were 5 and 6 years old at the time of the photos in the Ninth Judicial Circuit Court in Orange County on June 23rd. The complaint lists Universal Orlando as the defendant. The OK hand gesture has been defined as a sign used to indicate hate by the American Anti-Defamation League. The lawsuit lists several high-profile hate crimes during which the suspects displaced the hand gesture, including the riots at the U.S. Capitol on January 6th. Okay, so for a long time, right, like I've been hearing that this OK symbol or whatever is starting to be used by these like alt-right slash hate groups, these racist groups and things like that, right? And that's kind of what this whole lawsuit is like based around and everything here. So I decided to actually go to the ADL and figure out what they had to say about this. The OK hand gesture, in which the thumb and index finger touch while the other fingers of the hand are held outstretched, is an obvious and ancient gesture that has arisen in many cultures over the years with different meanings. Today, in a usage that dates to at least as early as 17th century Great Britain, it most commonly signals understanding, consent, approval, or well-being. Since the early 1800s, the gesture increasingly became associated with the word OK in the abbreviation. The gesture is also important in the Hindu and Buddhist worlds, as well as in yoga, where it's known as mudra or vikarta mudra, a symbol of inner perfection. The OK hand gesture also forms part of the basis for a number of words or concepts in American Sign Language. It appears in many other contexts as well. Use of the OK symbol in most contexts is entirely innocuous and harmless. Okay, so the ADL, which is who has been kind of, I guess, quoted or whatever throughout this entire thing here, have openly come out and said that there's like multiple contexts for this hand signal, and that most of the time usage of this hand symbol is not racist or hateful whatsoever and actually is a good meaning, well-intended gesture. Which leads me to question just how this lawsuit is actually even going to work out, right? According to the lawsuit, one documented incident occurred on March 23, 2019, when a 6-year-old girl referred to as Jay-Z in the document attended a breakfast at Universal's Lowe's Royal Pacific Resort and posed for a photo and video with a person dressed in the Gru costume. The actor placed a hand on her shoulder while displaying the OK hate symbol according to the photo provided by the families. The hand gesture was on display for an extended period of time on the biracial child's shoulder, lawyers for the family wrote. The 6-year-old later printed out a screenshot from the video to bring to school for a project and was humiliated when she was told she couldn't display it for class because of the hand gesture and the images, according to the lawsuit. In February 2019, a person dressed as Gru did the same thing to another 5-year-old girl referred to as HR in the lawsuit at the Universal Orlando theme park. Okay, so this is really just kind of a messy situation, right? Because we have something that can apparently either mean like complete hatred for somebody else or mean completely good intentions. And a big part, I think, of this lawsuit is they're going to have to kind of prove the intent, right? Because, I mean, the whole thing about court, right, is like you're innocent, I guess, until proven guilty. And, I mean, you kind of have to prove, especially in this context, that there was like racial hatred meant behind it. I mean, like, if it were to come out that both of these employees, right, were, like, part of some insane, like, Nazi militia or something crazy, and, like, they're posting on fucking Facebook a bunch of, like, racist stuff, yeah, that makes sense. You know, you can actually kind of prove some intent behind that, but if we're talking about some 19-year-old trying to work his way through college who just threw up a hand symbol that pretty much everyone has ever thrown up in their life, then I'm sorry, but I don't see a way that you're going to be able to prove racial hatred, right? And I mean, even when you look at like the context clues, it's really hard to kind of see this as a situation in which this would be like some sort of racial attack or something set up against these two children. Now, there's a coincidence that both of them were biracial, but it's also, from my understanding, that this was not the same person on both of these, right? These were two different people who were wearing like the same type of outfit or whatever. So I think that makes it even more unlikely that this was legitimately like some sort of racial hatred display or something like that, right? So I don't really see a way forward for this lawsuit, right? Because, I mean, you can't just be out here slamming people with this if that's not what they were actually trying to do, because it's going to get to the point, right, where either you let racist assholes actually take that hand gesture over, or you just realize that there's a lot of good context to it too, and you judge it on more of like a case-by-case basis here. So a spokesperson for Universal confirmed in October 2019 that the actor was fired but did not disclose the name of the employee. The families say Universal Orlando has refused to disclose the actor behind the Gru character and for civil rights violations. Both families are claiming the girls suffered mental anguish, loss of dignity, humiliation, embarrassment, and other emotional distress due to the incidents. The lawsuit claims Universal Orlando violated the Florida Civil Rights Act of 1992. The families are seeking more than $30,000 in damages. Now, if I'm being real, that's actually not as much as I thought this was going to be. Like, when I first read this lawsuit, I was pretty sure they were going to be shooting for the moon with that total, right? I was expecting to see, like, the families are asking for $2 million apiece for mental anguish and damages. But once again, you kind of have to prove what you're saying in court, right? Like, you can't just walk in and be like, oh, I think that this was bad, and then the court's like, well, you know what? Yeah, you have no evidence that that was actually bad, but here you go. Here's a win anyway. At least ideally, that's not how the court system's supposed to work. I mean, you kind of have to prove, right? Well, at least from my understanding of the legal system, you're supposed to have to prove not only in this situation the intent behind what was done and actually prove that it was like hateful, but you also have to prove that you actually received $30,000 in damages, right? Like, you have to prove that somehow through these girls being, mentally tortured by this hand symbol that could mean two completely different things, that, they somehow suffered $30,000 worth of embarrassment when the teacher wouldn't let them use that picture in class, or that they received $30,000 in damages when they looked back at the picture and their parents were upset about it, right? Because let's be real, these children did not know what this hand symbol meant, right? Like, I really do find it kind of hard to believe, right, that, like, what is this here? A 5 and a 6-year-old child know anything about, like, racial supremacy groups using hand symbols and the ADL classifying these things as such. And I mean, even the ADL who was quoted kind of, like, told the story right here. And for those of you who still don't really, understand the context of all this, the only reason that the OK symbol has been considered a hate symbol now in the first place is because of a hoax spread on 4chan. So back in like 2017 or something, 4chan started spreading this bullshit that this was like a racial hand gesture or whatever, and that it was meant to be like for white supremacists or whatever, right? And so with that, right, like them trolling led to people actually reacting to it and believing it, because like 4chan has a horrible reputation on the internet and stuff. And so people started believing it and other people started saying it, and eventually it just spread. It was never actually like, the Klan was out here throwing this up in pictures in the 1800s or something like that. This is just something that kind of recently developed due to trolls on the internet. So from my understanding, people actually do now use this as like a symbol for like racial hatred and stuff, but only because it was spread as a lie and people started reacting to it. So it kind of just starts to ask the question, like, are you going to let this kind of happen? Are you going to let these pieces of shit take this kind of hand gesture away from people? To the point that people at a fucking kids park can't put it up in pictures, even though it's for hundreds of years been displayed as like a good intended sign. I don't really think that that's the best way to go about this. I mean, this is really, I don't think even that deep of a situation, and I don't really see this becoming like a lawsuit that's going to succeed, right? I feel like a judge, or if this does somehow go to a jury or something, I feel like most people are going to be like, yeah, this isn't actually what it's being portrayed as. It just seems like a lot of coincidences kind of just unfolded, and unfortunately now 2 people have now taken the blame. Someone got fired over this, actually. And it's just kind of hard to prove the intent and like what actually was supposedly happening there. But anyway, with all that being said, thank you guys for watching. If you did enjoy, make sure to leave a like. Subscribe if you're brand new around here on the channel. Follow me over on Twitter and Twitch at @SubToOptimus. Make sure to check out Shop Opti. And until my next video, guys, this is Optimus talking about this and signing out.